One of the harder things in life is making decisions when none of your options is especially great. Some of you go to sports practice right after school in the afternoons, so what would happen one day if you had to choose between attending extra help for a subject in which you're struggling and making it to tennis practice? Okay, if you choose the first one, that next test or quiz will probably go quite well, but you might not get to play in the match this weekend since you skipped practice. Choose the second one, awesome, you get to compete, have fun, and the next test or quiz might not go great at all. A situation like this one, in which any of your options has negative consequences, is called a dilemma. Dilemma happens to be the perfect word to describe what any teacher of American history feels when he or she approaches the topic of slavery. On the one hand, we could skip over the subject altogether, avoid it, leave stories of terrible injustice over hundreds of years locked up tight in a box. Take that option and you'll probably go home at the end of the day feeling happier about life than you otherwise would. But you're also not getting the full truth about your nation's history. If we do dive in, confront the topic of slavery in America, it's going to be hard, extremely hard. We can't get around the fact that millions of men, women, and children over hundreds of years suffered and died in this country without ever tasting freedom. Letting these harsh facts out of the box may temporarily cost you your happiness, but at the end of the day, it's the honest thing to do. And so, we press forward. Between the 15 and 1800s, millions of human beings were bought and sold as property in a massive system called the slave trade. Most of these people who were sold into slavery came from a small portion of this continent called West Africa, located right along the Atlantic coast where European traders were able to reach them. It all started with European trade ships in the 1500s sailing to West Africa, thinking that they could talk local leaders there into trading them people in exchange for manufactured items like guns and cloth, items not available in West Africa at that time. Just imagine the dilemma these traders created for communities in West Africa, who had to choose whether or not to participate in a wicked system. Some communities agreed, and took prisoners of war and even people they had kidnapped from nearby villages, and sold them to the traders in exchange for guns. Other communities refused to participate, but then neighboring villages who did have guns would come after them, attack them, kidnap them, and sell them into slavery. There were no good options. Packed full of human cargo, the European trade ships made their way across the Atlantic. This journey, known as the Middle Passage, was notoriously deadly for the people chained up below deck. Those who did survive the journey were sold into slavery in the Americas. Many of them were put to work on plantations growing valuable crops like rice, cotton, tobacco, and sugar. Trade ships loaded up on these products, carried them back to Europe, and exchanged them for more guns and cloth, ready to start the entire process again. You can see how it got the name triangular trade. Looking at the big picture like this, it's easy to forget that real individuals like you and I suffered through this experience. So let's try to put ourselves in their shoes briefly. You're 12 years old, living in West Africa, and one morning you wake up to a pack of strangers standing around you with guns. They put you in chains and give you away to some funny-looking men who force you beneath the deck of a boat where the air is hot, space is cramped, and disease spreads quickly. Many of the people chained up around you don't make it, and are soon thrown overboard to the sharks that have been trailing your ship for days. After what feels like an eternity, you are suddenly let out of the ship and herded with many others to a market square. Strange people watch you from all sides as you and the others are taken up to a raised platform. More strange men standing across from you begin to eye you with great interest and yell strange words in your direction. Eventually, one of them takes you away. Soon you find yourself in a vast field, surrounded by many others like you, men and women both, of all ages. Only some of them speak your language, but soon enough you learn how to pick away the soft white parts of an otherwise sharp and angry plant. Your hands are cut and bleeding by the end of the first day. Men with whips watch carefully as you work and attack those who go too slow or fall over from exhaustion. Eventually it occurs to you that this may never end, because the more of you there are, the more fields there can be, and the more fields there are, the richer these strange people will become. And now, students, Just pause to consider that from the 15 to the 1800s, experiences like this one happened every day.